live, and I want to make sure everyone knows I'm here and that you are with me, that you have your beverage of choice. Let me know in the comments that you're here and that you can hear me. Okay. All right. So now we can get started and just making sure, again, I can continue to see you all. Good morning, Vivian. Oh, Mark, you have your black tea. I'm with you, Mark. I'm drinking my black tea as well. So cheers to that. Cheers to all of you for joining me this morning with your beverage of choice. So we're going to get started. Thank you so much. All right. So first of all, we've had quite a few new followers in our Facebook group. So I want to introduce myself. If you're new to Tea Time Tuesday, thank you for joining me. And if you are new to this group, thank you for joining all of us and this wonderful community. You will see by all of the comments, all the people who are joining us with their beverage of choice, their tea, their water, their coffee, that this is a wonderful, wonderful community. And we're here with one thing in mind, and that is to build a legacy for our families and with multi-generational wealth. So my name is Marcella Mullen Williams, and I am the co-founder of Legacy Builder Group, along with my partner, Mark Mullen, who's also my brother, so it's a family-owned business. And I am a behavioral financial advisor, working with you to bring traditional finance, neuroscience, and psychology to manage your savings and investment behavior. All of this is to help you develop the behavior that will build your legacy. So with that said, it is all about behavior. And if you saw the post or received the email notification, then it probably piqued your curiosity what I shared. Am I the only person in the world who's ever experienced something like this? No, probably not, but maybe one of the few people that you do know. So I'm going to share a little bit about that story and go into the details that I mentioned that I would. Let me take a moment to pause and welcome Instagram. Again, decided to share Tea Time with Instagram today since it was a very popular topic. Okay, and it's those who continue to join us. I just welcome you and feel free to share, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook, what you're drinking, so that I know we're in this together and we're just communing together. So today we're talking about disrupting the narrative. And when I was thinking about what to share today, I actually came across some Facebook ad and where the person actually mentioned about their childbirth. And it brought back this story, this experience for me. And I thought it was the perfect way to really help others in this group understand what it really takes to build a legacy, especially if you are the first person in your family to do so. So I talked about, and I'll share about how I gave birth to both of my kids in under 20 minutes total. So my son, who's in the group, Markel, he is now he's 25, but I gave birth to him in a little over 5 minutes from the time my water broke. So when my water broke, he was born a little over 5 minutes later. And then when it was time to have my daughter, I gave birth to her about 15 minutes from the time my water broke. Both of these labors were pain-free. So it was just a couple pushes and they were out. I think with Daniel, my first one was just like one strong push, and he pretty much, forced his way out anyway. So that's just his personality. But yeah, it was painless, quick and easy. He's Mark, there he is commenting, too quick. And welcome, Rudy. Welcome, Walida. Bulletproof Coffee. I love it. I call that super birth woman. I love it, Rudy. So yes, I gave birth to them quick and easy. So there was a process though that I went through prior to giving birth before that can happen. And here's what it was. It was simply that I believed that I could, so I decided that I would. And there's a lot to that I'm going to go into. I believed that I could, and then I decided that I would. And what went into that belief and what went into that decision is what I want you to pay attention to, because this is a practice that I am challenging you to also embody. One thing I didn't realize at the time was how you do one thing is how you do anything. And if you've been following me enough, you will hear me say that over and over again. It's something that I've been determined to live by and carry through in every aspect of my life, carrying out the behavior that will shift, that will change and shape every element of the legacy that I want to experience and that I want others to experience from me. And that is what I want you to really develop and embrace. So I believed I could, so I decided that I would. How could I do that? Well, first I decided to disrupt the narrative. And that's why I titled this, the team and I decided to title this Disrupting the Narrative. Because the narrative that I was told, and I'm sure we've all been told, is that childbirth is painful. And childbirth can take a long time. Oh, it's painful, and 24 hours, 48 hours. I mean, we've heard all the stories, right? We're not foreign to these stories, to the narrative about childbirth. And what I decided was, that's not going to be my story. I don't want that. I don't like pain. I don't want to experience pain if I don't have to, especially then. Now, when it comes, because I work out more and I exercise, and if you know about my split challenge, which I'll touch on later this month, you know that I've learned to embrace pain a bit more. But then, when I was at the time 22, I didn't want anything to do with pain. And that was something I decided, you know what? I'm going to change this narrative. I'm disrupting it. It's not going to work for me. And so the question is, how was I able, especially at 22, how was I able to believe that I could? How was I able to say, oh, wait a minute, it's possible to disrupt this narrative? How on earth? So this is how. Let me pause for a moment. They tell you that especially the first one will be long and hard. Absolutely, Vanessa. She just commented on, again, the narrative that they tell you. That first birth is going to be long and hard. No, we're not having that. So we are changing that narrative. Again, remember, that's what we're talking about. So how did I know to do this? One, and I think the main thing is that there was evidence that it had been done before. There were two women in my life, and one of them was one of the pastor's wives, and then another woman that was instrumental in my life growing up was the youth leader at the church that I grew up in. So I known both of these women since I was a child. And if you ever heard me talk, you know that I am a people watcher, right? I've shared about how from a young age I would observe and watch people, and I was fascinated with what made people do the things that they do. And so I watched these two women. And now one woman I'll call it Delene. I'll just use their names because I love them, and some of you might even know them, those who've known me for a long time and who I've grown up with in this group. Delene taught me how to be clear on what you wanted. She just had certain ideas she shared about her experience with her children and how she decided what she wanted her children to look like, from hair color to eye color, and that's what happened. So I did the same thing, actually. That's for another story. And then Miss Pat, who was the pastor's wife. And Miss Pat gave birth painless and quickly. And that, when I heard that for the first time, that was the evidence I needed to know that it could be done. That is evidence that, oh, wait a minute, this is something I can actually think about, and knowing that it's possible for me. I want you to hold on to that point because it's very powerful. This is the reason why we read biographies. I am a lover of biographies, and I'll recommend a book. If you let me know in the comments if you ever heard of this book. First, the author is Malcolm Gladwell, who was my favorite author, and one of his most powerful books, and he has some powerful books, called Outliers. I've read that book twice. I can't get enough of it because that book is story after story of things that we probably don't realize could be done. And that is a powerful, these examples, this evidence, it's very powerful and very important to plant them in your minds. These are the things that allow us to dream bigger, to have larger visions for ourselves and our families. So I understood that it could be done because someone in my life had experienced something that I wanted, something I desired for myself. And not just for myself, for my family. I wanted it to be a part of my legacy. Now, I was presented with this opportunity. Oh, this can be done. And I was also presented with the naysayers, all right, like Vanessa said. That they will tell you, especially the first one, that it'll be long and hard. There is something about us that likes to celebrate suffering. Plain and simple. It is built into the fabric of many cultures. It is built into the way we see ourselves as human and the way we connect with one another. You know, and connecting and belongingness is important to us. And sometimes, as I said, celebrating suffering is a part of the connection. We get that reward because when we could tell our war stories, oh, I was in labor. Oh, I was in labor for 12 hours. Girl, I was in labor for 24 hours. Girl, my pain, oh, I was so much pain. Oh, my child did a number on me. Okay, I know the women hear this. Some of you men, y'all heard it too from the women in your lives. That is what I call celebrating suffering. So I am hearing, I've already been provided with the evidence that it could be done. But guess what I'm getting constantly? Oh, the reality, the narrative that I'm rejecting. So in that process, I had to make 3 decisions in order to get clear on what I wanted for my life and what I wanted for my legacy. How was I going to stand in believing for a painless, quick childbirth? Now, let me add to that. When I say painless, from the time my water broke, I had no pain. Prior to that, I had contractions. I did have pain with those contractions. And so I want to be completely clear and transparent with that. And I'm very grateful for those contractions and the pain because who knows where I would have given birth if I didn't have a clear indication that I needed to get to the hospital. So I thank God that he gave me the pain contractions to be able to get to the hospital. And as I waited for, to be admitted, finally got in, and then waited. They thought I was going to take forever. And when the water broke, the babies were coming. So just to clarify the story, when I say painless, I'm talking about painless labor, to labor itself. So let's get back to what are the 3 decisions that we all have to make in order to accomplish the desires that we want. Book. Okay, great. Thank you, Joanne, for sharing the book on Amazon, Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, A Story of Success. Wonderful, wonderful book. Francesca, thank you. Had not heard of the author, definitely interested in the book. Wonderful, wonderful. Telling you. Yes. These are 3 decisions that you need to make, especially if you are the first person in your family who is willing to change the trajectory of the family legacy that was passed down to you. You want to shift it, make a change that will elevate your family experience. These are the decisions that you must make. 1, you have to decide what you will believe. So put that in the comments so I know you hear me. I will decide what I believe. I decide what I believe. All right. So I want you to think about that. I had to decide what I would believe. I can decide to hear the one story that illustrated what I wanted to believe, or the dozens of other voices that said it would be painful. Are you hearing what I'm saying? 1 versus dozens. I want you to pay attention to the fact that I'm using the word decide and not choose. There are similarities between a choice and a decision, but there is a distinction. A choice is an option. A decision is a commitment. You have to choose between one or the other. But once you make that selection, over here, 1 belief versus many, you choose. When you make that choice, you now have to decide on that belief. You have to make a commitment to that belief system. This is what we do. How we do one thing is how we do everything. As a legacy builder, what you're deciding to build multi-generational wealth, the decision is about focusing in on what you want. Making that decision, no matter what has been all around you, no matter what the narrative has been saying, you are making that decision to believe that it can be done. Because the evidence is around you that you can do it. And I am committed to always encouraging you to believe that you can do it and that you will change the trajectory of your family legacy. Mark is committed. Gabrielle's committed. The community in this group, this is what we're here for, which leads to number 2. You have to decide to be a part of an environment that reinforces your beliefs. So put it in the group, because that's a long one. Decide to be in an environment that reinforces what I believe. So decide to stay in an environment, to be in an environment that reinforces my belief. I like to use the word ecosystem. When you think about an ecosystem, there's so many elements involved in how it flows, how, the natural ecosystems around us flow together. And this is what this is why I like to use the word ecosystem, because that's really how I see each of us. We're all within we create ecosystems around us. None of us are an island. We can't operate independently from one another. We need each other. God designed that for a reason. And the need for one another, the interdependent relationships, is what keeps us going, what keeps us flourishing and nurturing one another. And it is the reason why Mark and I created this Facebook group, so that we can continue to nurture one another, because this environment is specifically created to reinforce your beliefs. It's created to reinforce your values. And if you have family, environments, friends, let's say they're toxic behavior, I'm going to encourage you to keep this practice in mind. And it's the same thing I tell people when they're looking to change their diet behavior, to eat better, to do better when it comes to fitness. Focus on adding, not subtracting. So when you want to have a better diet, when you want to eat better, we kind of think about dieting and taking away. But that's not where you start. You start by adding more to your diet, adding more fruits and vegetables. By adding more fruits and vegetables, you will naturally, over time, start just actually resisting the things that you used to eat. The things that you used to find fulfilling just are naturally not going to be fulfilling for you anymore. And it's the same thing when it comes to relationships, creating this environment and this ecosystem. Add the people into your life. Put yourself in the communities. Go to the events. Be with the people who will reinforce your beliefs. And you will naturally find yourself just wanting to spend less time with those people who act counter, or who say things counter to your belief. Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. Wonderful. I'm seeing everyone. Add in the comments. Love it, love it, love it. Yes, you decide. Yes, your declaration of belief. Decide in the environment. Yes, to reinforce your beliefs. There we go. And I see you too on Instagram. Thank you for adding your affirmations. So yes, you will naturally crave the reinforcement of those who are desiring to build the same legacy, desiring to build a legacy for themselves and their families. So that's done in so many ways. That's what we talk about. Values, making sure you know your values. That also helps to create the environment within your household, within your family, as you're building up this ecosystem. Within the family, outside of the family, your values play a very, very important role. And then third, so we have the first, decide what you will believe, decide to be an environment that will reinforce your beliefs. And the third, decide to behave like you believe. So you want to decide to behave like I believe. That's what I want you to type in. I decide to behave like I believe. Behavior. Thus, I'm a behavioral financial advisor. Of course, I'm going to talk about behavior because all of this ties to behavior. You must behave like you believe. Your actions, your words. We walk by faith, not by sight. So all of this is a faith walk. And while I'm not necessarily preaching and trying to force my beliefs on anyone, the two women that I mentioned provided practical examples of faith. It wasn't just something someone was preaching to me and telling me about, but I was so blessed at such a young age to be gifted with a practical illustration of walking by faith. And that is what it takes to build the legacy that you desire for your family and for yourself. Actions. So when it was time to give birth to my second child. So Gabrielle, who's in this group, one of the administrators in this group, I walked into the hospital, of course, in labor, and having the contractions. Water hadn't broken yet, of course, but I was doing pretty well. I can talk. I wasn't in, terrible pain or anything. So I just having those contractions every now and then. And I walked up to the nurse's station, and I told them, I'm going to need y'all to be ready because I give birth very quickly. And I was there with my husband, and that's what I told him. I told him to prepare because I behaved like someone that knew I was going to give birth quickly for the second time. And I spoke those words. The belief was in me. That is so important for us to do as legacy builders. We have to walk like legacy builders. We have to talk like legacy builders. We have to operate as those that understand that this is what we're doing here. This is what we're doing. Point blank, period. Remember, you already chose what you were going to believe, so there's no going back from that. You made that commitment to yourself. And one of the things that helps with that is, again, back to this group, accountability partners. During those 9 months, and especially with my first child, I made this declaration before I had children. Okay, so the experience that I had with the two women were when I was still a child, I think a teenager. And that's when I made the decision, when I was a teenager. So by the time I got married, I got pregnant. That's a long time to hear the standard narrative. But I held on to the evidence, and I held on to the belief all that time. So by the time I got married, got pregnant, my husband, I shared that belief with him, and it became his belief. And he was my accountability partner. He was in agreement with me. He didn't know this could be done, but he believed it could be done. And I mean, we believe in the God that we serve, so we knew it could be done. If ever I maybe faltered or felt a certain way, or maybe even said something that counter to this belief, I knew he would be there to lift me up. He would be there to check me, and he would be there to make sure that I stayed in line with what I said I believed. That is so important. All of this, I went through all of this, these 3 decisions, and I processed them, and I had these 2 children. And then life kind of came, and life started lifing, and I went through some challenges. It wasn't until a couple years ago when I met my coach, Tasha Batts, and I was in her program, and she was teaching me, and the realization of everything that I went through in my past, all the things that I believed, all the things that were manifested because of where I stood with God, where I stood with the beliefs that I had, was everything. These things are the 3 things I always needed to know in order to accomplish anything I set my mind to. These were the basic 3 beliefs. And it blew my mind because thanks to having a coach, from that moment on, I began to do the same thing I did with my childhood beliefs and started reshaping my life and reshifting and living in alignment and in purpose with the person that God actually created me to be, and living intentionally within every ounce of my being. And that is what I believe is possible for everyone. I'll say this again. If you have no one else, let me be your evidence that what you want to accomplish in every aspect of your family is possible. In every aspect of your life, you can do it. And these 3 declarations, especially if you are the first person in your family to intentionally decide, I am a legacy builder. This is the legacy I want to build in finance, fitness, family, and faith. These legacy pillars, I'm building them all up, and I believe I can, period. Then continue to declare, I decide what I believe. I decide to be in the environment that will reinforce what I believe. And I decide to behave like I believe. So continue to stand on those things. Continue to believe that you are the legacy builder and act on those beliefs. Continue to be a part of this community and the communities that reinforce this belief. And we will continue to build our legacies together. So let me pause here. I see that you're writing. You have it down. Like a yes. Yes, but I behave like I believe. Rhonda, I see you. Thank you, Vivian. I see you. Francesca, Mark. Yes, Dwayne, I see you. Thank you, Maggie. Wonderful, wonderful, Francesca. Yes, ma'am. If you get it, you get it. Let me see. Say, I got it. I got it. I want to know you got it. Instagram, let me know if you got it. This is your legacy. All right. You know, I'm a little over the time, but this was a good one, and I wanted to make sure you got this. Because this month, we are committed. We are committed to really reshaping how you view your legacy. This month, it's going to be all about providing you with the evidence that you need in order to elevate your vision for your family legacy. That's what we're committed to doing this month. So just stay tuned for our Tea Time Tuesday. We're elevating the vision for you. Got it? Okay. I said Instagram. Got it. Instagram, if you are not in the Facebook group, I want you to look for the link in my bio and join the Legacy Builder group for first generation millionaires. Be with us because we're not always going live on Instagram. Just wanted to do a little treat for you today. But join me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Have an amazing Tuesday. And if you're on the replay, let me know you catch the replay. Thank you for joining me live. Thank you for joining me on the replay, and I'll see you next time.